The endocrine system is a system within the body. It's sometimes referred to as the hormone or hormonal system as well. It's a system inside the body that consists of a number of different glands, and these glands produce and secrete hormones, which are chemical messages that can be sent around the body via the bloodstream, the circulatory system, two parts of the body, two cells, to stimulate responses, things like growth and others. So if we have a look at this diagram over on the left-hand side here, we can see a number of different glands that are shared, like the pituitary gland, like the thymus and the pancreas. Types of glands that are shared by both males and females. We've also got some glands that are more related to sexuality, so things like ovary, exclusive to females, testes are exclusive to males and have particular male or female functions. So some examples, before I go into some examples, glands create and excrete three main types of hormones. So they create hormones which can be proteins. Now proteins are made up of long chains of amino acids. We can also have hormones being steroids. Now steroids are lipids, so type of fat. And we can also have peptide hormones. Peptides are generally short chains of amino acids. So these hormones are created by a number of different glands, secreted by a number of different glands. Some examples of glands, hormones, and functions I'll talk about now. So something like our pituitary gland secretes a hormone called human growth hormone. And the function of human growth hormone is to try and stimulate growth in cells. We can also look at something like the pancreas. So the pancreas is a gland that secretes insulin, which is to do with lowering our blood sugar level, or blood glucose level. So if blood glucose gets too high, pancreas will secrete insulin to send a message to relevant parts of the body that we need to decrease blood glucose level. And finally, if we look at a male unique one, the testes, they release testosterone, which are going to lead to particular development of a male body, so things like increased muscle mass and things like that, and also have an influence on sperm production. So those are some glands and types of hormones that are produced within the body. So once these hormones are produced, then the protein or the steroid is going to make its way through the body via the circulatory system, the bloodstream, out to particular cells that they want to influence in order to enact change, enact something happening within the body. So if we go down and have a look at this diagram here, I'll talk about how steroids influence cells first, and then I'll talk about how both peptides and proteins work, because they're a bit different. So the steroid hormones, I'll grab a colour that's a little bit clearer. So we've got our steroid hormone here. So steroid hormones are a type of lipid. So they're able to diffuse straight through the phospholipid bilayer, and steroid hormones are going to bind to a receptor protein actually inside of the cell. So they move through the membrane, bind with the receptor protein, and create something called a hormone receptor complex. So that hormone receptor complex is able to move into the nucleus and then communicate a message to DNA that we need to create something like a protein, and then these proteins created will start to build things or start to have an impact on blood sugar level, or make us grow, or things like that. Whereas this differs a little bit from the other two types, so our proteins and our peptides. What will happen with these is they are unable to make their way through the phospholipid bilayer. They're not lipid soluble. So what we'll have is a receptor protein on the outside, or embedded within the membrane. So we've got a receptor protein on the membrane, and now our peptide hormone, or our protein hormone, are able to come along and bind to that receptor because they can't get through the membrane. And that receptor will then initiate this flow of, a bit of a wonky line, but this flow of messengers, or could have been called them, would be something like a relay protein within inside the cell. So once a peptide or a protein binds to a receptor, then they will send a messenger or relay protein within the cell to the DNA, and then we'll get a similar impact like this hormone receptor complex of the steroid and the receptor protein. We'll just get the messenger or the relay protein move its way into the DNA, send instruction to the DNA saying we need to produce this particular type of protein in order to have an effect on the body.